I had never imagined myself doing something so reckless, yet there I was, heart-pounding, sitting across from a man who wasn't my husband, the night stretching before me like a forbidden promise. It started as a casual conversation. He was charming, attentive, and somehow made me feel alive in a way I hadn't in years. My husband, Ryan, had become predictable, absorbed in his work, his eyes often glued to the phone rather than mine. I told myself it was harmless, a flirtation, a momentary thrill, but the alcohol, the closeness, the whispered confessions, they blurred the line, and soon I crossed it. I spent the night with him. The guilt didn't hit me immediately. At first, it was adrenaline, the rush of secrecy. But by morning, as the sunlight sneaked through the curtains and illuminated the room in stark reality, I felt my stomach twist with nausea. I couldn't go home. Not yet. Not with the shame crushing me from the inside. I wandered the streets for hours, replaying everything in my mind, the feel of his hand, the sound of his laughter, the hollow emptiness I realized I carried when I thought of Ryan. And yet, a part of me dreaded the inevitable confrontation, the moment I would have to face the man I had vowed to love, trust, and honor. When I finally returned, our house was silent. Ryan was always home early on Mondays, yet the living room lights were off, the kettle untouched on the stove. My heart stuttered. Should I confess? Should I make up some excuse? But before I could even form words, he appeared. Not angry. Not yelling. He just stood there, hands in his pockets, eyes heavy but calm. I know, he said. The words struck me like a blow. I froze, unable to respond. He didn't yell. He didn't ask questions. He simply looked at me with a mixture of sadness and quiet understanding that terrified me more than any scream could. I know you were with him, he continued, his voice low, almost resigned. I saw the messages on your phone, the location history, everything. My knees nearly gave out. I tried to speak, to explain, to apologize, but no words came out. How could they? How could I possibly justify what I had done? I won't pretend it doesn't hurt, he said softly, stepping closer. But yelling, blaming, tearing this apart, that won't fix anything. It won't fix us. Tears sprang to my eyes, but it wasn't just guilt anymore. It was shock, disbelief, and a profound grief for what I had nearly destroyed. I expected fury, a storm of anger that would leave me trembling, begging for forgiveness. Instead, I was met with quiet, and it was unbearable. His calmness wasn't mercy, it was a mirror, reflecting my shame so clearly I couldn't bear to look. I don't know if we can go back to how things were, he said, voice breaking slightly. I don't know if I can trust you again, not fully. But I love you. And I think, maybe, love is all we have to hold on to. The words cut deeper than anger ever could. I sank onto the couch, covering my face with trembling hands. I'm sorry, I whispered, a whisper that felt too small for the enormity of my betrayal. I don't know why I did it. I don't know who I am anymore. Ryan sat beside me, silent for a moment, letting me dissolve into the waves of my guilt. Then he took my hand, gentle but firm. I won't lie and say this isn't the end. But we have to decide, together, if we can move forward. I need honesty. No more hiding, no more lies. Can you do that? I nodded, feeling the weight of my choices press down on me. The truth had been exposed, and there was no turning back. But in the midst of my shame, there was a spark, small, fragile, that maybe, just maybe, we could rebuild. Over the next hours, we didn't speak much. The silence wasn't empty, it was heavy with emotion, with unspoken questions and tentative understanding. I wanted to crumble, to disappear, to beg for forgiveness, but he simply held my hand, a lifeline in the wreckage I had caused. That night, I slept in the guest room. I didn't ask for forgiveness. I didn't deserve it. But in the quiet of the house, I heard Ryan moving about, making dinner, cleaning, doing the mundane things that suddenly seemed heroic. I realized then that his strength wasn't in punishing me, but in staying, in facing the betrayal without letting it destroy him. The next day, we talked, long and painfully. I told him everything, every detail, every fleeting thought, every regret. And he listened. He didn't interrupt, didn't scream, didn't storm out. He simply listened, letting me spill the truth like a flood I could no longer contain. "I'm hurt," he said finally, "and it will take time. But I need to know you want to stay with me. Not just because it's convenient, but because you truly want this, and are willing to fight for us." I swallowed hard, tears streaming down my face. "I do. I want us, Ryan. I want to be better. I promise." He nodded, not smugly, not triumphantly, but quietly, as if acknowledging that trust is fragile, love is work, and forgiveness is a process, not a gift freely given. I had imagined punishment, anger, heartbreak, but his reaction was something far more shattering, a mirror of my failure, a quiet resilience that left me broken and humbled. I understood then that love isn't always about grand gestures or dramatic confrontations. Sometimes, it's about the quiet endurance, the steady presence, the willingness to face betrayal without losing yourself completely. In that moment, I realized the depth of what I had done and the depth of the man I had vowed to honor. My night of reckless passion had been exposed, and I had nothing left but the truth, the remorse, and the fragile hope that we could survive it. I didn't know if we would. But as he held my hand, simply, silently, I felt the weight of my mistakes, and the faintest glimmer of redemption, threading its way back into my life. And for the first time in years, I truly saw him, not just my husband, but the man whose love was patient enough to endure my betrayal, strong enough to confront it, and brave enough to hold on.